Good morning, four-star Nation. Welcome to day 2 of Senior Bowl here live from Mobile, Alabama. I am Wes Pruitt. We got Brandon Bumgarner in the house as well. Brandon, yesterday was day 1, man. We got to learn a little bit about what these guys do, how they run practice. Practice 1 was the national team yesterday from 8 a.m. to 11. Of course, everybody was there to see Kenny Pickett. Everybody was there to see the quarterbacks. I thought Gregory Jr. from Ouachita Baptist. We talked with Rex Nelson yesterday from the Ouachita Digital Network. Rex did a great job on here yesterday with us, as well as Lennon Crisp from Sports Culture and Media. Brandon, when you look at yesterday's practice, man, who stood out to you the most yesterday?
Had to be Jerome Ford from Cincinnati. He was all over the place yesterday. I know he's a Cincinnati transfer, and he doesn't want people saying that, but he transferred into Cincinnati from, I believe, Alabama. And he was all over the place yesterday. I mean, he was working with Desmond Ridder, Bailey Zapp, not Bailey. He was working with Desmond Ridder, Carson Strong, and Kenny Pickett. And honestly, he looked comfortable with all three. So as far as the national team, I was very, very impressed with him. Gregory Jr. had a couple little instances where he got absolutely torched by Braylon Sanders from Ole Miss. But, I mean, all in all, you're right. Greg Jr. did have a good day of practice. And it's nothing that you can't fix throughout the week. But, yeah, man, I'm excited for today to see who else steps up, makes a big name for themselves, and goes from there. Should be a lot of fun.
Bless you. Excuse me. Yeah. I mean, Gregory did. He got burned a couple times yesterday. It's gonna happen. I mean, you're in there with the best of the best. But when you look at day 1 yesterday, there was a defensive lineman from UConn with number 57 on his roster. And yesterday, man, watching him yesterday on defensive line, I'm sorry. The young man was incredible, man. His name is Travis Jones, is his name. Captain of the team.
Big boy.
Very big. Junior, he was a senior now, but man, he was nasty. His jersey was everywhere. He was getting held everywhere yesterday. But also, real quick, sorry, gotta thank everybody from watching and listening right now. We're at 4-Star Sports Media Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter account live right now. 4-Star Sports Media. 4-Star Sports Show Facebook page, The Point Facebook. Basically, anywhere that we have social media, we're live right now.
If it's a social media page and we're not on it, then we're doing a disservice to you. Yeah. So, unless it's Instagram, because they don't allow you to go live like that. But it's besides the point.
Tell you what, to me yesterday there was 3 guys that really stood out to me. That is Travis Jones, defensive lineman from UConn. That was the Arizona State running back. I thought he ran the ball really hard yesterday, ran with purpose. And then my last one is a quarterback. And you and I talked about him all day yesterday, Carson Strong.
Yeah, it's not the quarterback that everybody thought you were talking about either.
No, it's not. But Carson Strong, to me yesterday, the ball came out with more pop. The ball came out with more velocity, more ferocity, to use 2 terms there. But man, when you look at the day yesterday of practice, there was talent all over the field. Practice 1, I thought, went really well. Got a little cloudy, got a little dark at the end of practice 1.
A little chilly.
It got chilly. We were up in the press box for most of the day. We went down to the field here and there sporadically. We got down to the field yesterday afternoon right as practice, the first practice was ending and the second one was getting ready to get cranked up. And Brandon, I gotta say, it was pretty cool to look up and the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin.
Look up. Mike Tomlin's walking by you. Dabo Sweeney's on the field. Hugh Freeze is walking by you. Unfortunately, Josh Heupel walked by me. That was so cool. And I mean, just to be in the presence of all those great football minds, minus Josh Heupel, was just. I'm just kidding, Tennessee fans. Not really. But getting to be around all those football minds yesterday and seeing them watch the same thing we're watching was really cool because we're all thinking the same thing. Who's going to stand out? We'll get into it on the American side, the American team here in a minute and tell you who stood out because there's a lot of noise going in and out on that side. But, yeah, man, yesterday was awesome. It was only something I could have dreamed about doing, going to and covering. And I know it's just a practice, and I can't wait until Saturday for the game. It's going to be so much fun, but we got 2 more days of practice, today and tomorrow. And then Friday's kind of a relaxed day. They got the parade and everything, and then Saturday we get tuned up and play the big game.
Yeah. Yesterday being practice 1, or day 1 of practice, I should say. There's only 3 days. We've been talking about it. It was yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Only 3 days to get this done. Only 3 days to make the impact you want to make on the scouts. Those 3 guys that I just mentioned, Carson Strong, the running back from Arizona State, and the guy from UConn, really impressed me yesterday.
The running back's name from Arizona State is Rashad White.
Yeah, Rashad White from Arizona State really impressed me yesterday. Another one that impressed me was Jerome Ford. You mentioned him earlier, out of Cincinnati. He ran the ball really well yesterday, but what impressed me most was his ability to catch out of the backfield and make moves to get downfield.
Yeah, man, he's very elusive. Another name we're not mentioning right now is a Memphis kid, Tyler Beatty, who played at the University of Missouri. Former Memphis decommitted and went to Missouri. That kid ran hard as hell yesterday. I mean, he was out there to prove to people, hey, I belong here. I deserve a spot in the NFL just as much as you do. Kudos to that kid, man. He came out prepared, ready to go, ready to roll. The former Briarcrest running back is out there. I mean, he's fighting for a spot at the next level, with some of these guys. And the good thing is running back depth is probably, if not the number one of the top 3 things you need in the NFL in case of injury. I honestly think you'd be missing out if you didn't try to add Tyler Beatty on your roster. Yeah, I've seen that kid play a bunch of times. He's been good every single time I've gone to watch him play. And excited for him to be down here as well. And I know we're down here covering our Memphis Tiger guys, but shout out to Tyler Beatty, who's from Briarcrest Christian School in Memphis, or Eads, technically. But that kid impressed me yesterday as well.
Yeah, and we got a chance to rub elbows with an AAC coach. I'll just put it that way. I don't want to mention his name.
Yeah.
But that was really cool yesterday. During the break between practices, we had a chance to kind of rub elbows with him for just a short conversation. And we were talking about the certain player that he had in the game, but then he looked down and he said, "That's one of mine too. He just transferred away." That comment yesterday to me, Brandon, really stuck out as being a hell of a football coach that cares about not only the student, but he cares about the young man. And that was really cool yesterday to get a chance to chit-chat with him for a few minutes.
Yeah, he only has one guy playing down here that played on his roster this past year, but he's got, I think he said 3 total. But to hear a college football coach in this day and age of the transfer portal and people transferring in and out of your program, to hear a guy say that and say, hey, that's one of my kids too. I mean, you don't hear that from a lot of coaches anymore. A lot of these coaches are like, all right, he's gone, cool. I'm not going to keep up with him anymore. But my respect grew immensely for that program. and for him to take the time out of the day to speak with us, and this is the day before National Signing Day. The guy doesn't have a whole lot of time. I mean, when we first saw him, he was on the cell phone, and then we approached him, shook hands with him, and super, super nice guy to us. And thankful that he spoke with us for as long as he did. We were there for about 5 minutes. We don't want to say his name just out of personal reasons, but the guy couldn't have been any nicer to us. And good luck to his program, except for when they're playing Memphis.
Yeah, most definitely. On the Arkansas side of things, Arkansas's got a couple of guys in this game. John Ridgway III, big defensive lineman, and their long snapper. I thought both looked pretty good yesterday. Defensive lineman John Ridgway got some good bit of pressure on some plays yesterday, and the long snapper I thought did a good job. I watched a few of his snaps yesterday.
Yeah, Jordan Silver had some really snaps. It's funny because I was watching the national team warm up a little bit, and it took them a minute to get the rhythm down with their snapper and their holder and their kicker. Silver walked out there snapping dimes back there just for those guys to be able to have a good practice, and it's funny because if you watch the Senior Bowl, the entire field is all skills player and linemen and everything like that. And you see the little kickers and punters on the side of the field. There's no kicking net on the sidelines. So they're basically sitting in the stands the entire practice until they're called out there, hey, come kick. If that's what an NFL practice is like as a kicker, I'm pretty sure kicker is the best position in the NFL because you don't have to do anything.
No, not at all. Of course, the national team practiced first, and then the American team came on. The national team is going to be coached by the New York Jets, and then the American team is going to be coached by, the Detroit Lions. What I found really interesting about that practice, and you and I caught it pretty quickly, they started the very beginning of the practice in almost like a walkthrough fashion with no helmets on, just snap, walk, kind of go through the motions.
I actually liked that because this is the first time those guys were taking snaps together, and it made it seem like they were all in unison. There wasn't a lot of punching, kicking, throwing, all that type of stuff. They're just doing little walkthrough plays. Not a single guy had their helmet on, so it didn't separate them from their school and the team that they're playing for this weekend. It brought them all as one. And then the helmets got put on. And Lord have mercy, was there a show put on yesterday by a little boy that's from Memphis, Tennessee. I think a lot of you know who we're talking about right now. And when I tell you that kid put on a show yesterday, the guy shot up the draft boards. If he can continue to do this week, Calvin Austin III is going to be third, fourth round pick easy. Everybody was bragging about all the athletes that Memphis has churned out over the last few years. Calvin was so impressive yesterday, and I've retweeted some things and videos and everything that people have seen. He was lined up against a University of Tennessee defensive back, put that kid on skates, and Calvin said, see ya, straight to the house. We had him on last week. We knew he would come in here with that type of mentality, a killer instinct, because you're fighting for yourself here in Mobile. Even though you're playing on the same team and practicing against the same players, these guys are still going to be in the NFL with you. If you can show how good you are against the best seniors in the country, the sky's the limit. But shout out Calvin Austin III, because that kid has wheels, putting everybody on skates. I mean, Wes, when practice first started, we're down there, kind of close. You got a good picture of him. He's fielding punts in like 22-mile-an-hour wind, catching them one-handed. There was nobody else on the field doing that. And Calvin, for those of you that are wondering about his physical shape and everything, we know he wasn't going to play in the Hawaii Bowl, didn't travel with the team to play in Hawaii. Calvin sitting out for that the bowl practices and everything was good for him because that kid looks healthy as can be, and he's down here to put on not only a show for the fans but a show for these scouts and these head coaches that are down here saying, "Damn, I want that kid on my team."
Yeah, he looked good yesterday. Anybody that's questioning his health, don't question it. He's got an extra step. That extra gear that he's had since we've seen him is back. It's there. He's back to leaving receivers in a cloud of dust. But it's going to be really interesting to see how these quarterbacks, all of them on that team, really gel with Calvin. It's going to be fun to see Malik Willis today in day 2, how he can do, how he can continue to grow. Also, we found out yesterday through a Western Kentucky fan that Bailey Zappi is not correct. The name is Bailey Zappi. You just stop it and it's over with.
Wow. I knew that. Wes didn't. But apparently a lot of people that were watching him thought he had a rough day yesterday. Said that he's a great story, but we don't know how long that story's going to go. And I don't want to put that on that kid because it's day 1 of a practice.
Right.
And I'm not going to sit here and tell you Calvin Austin's going to be an all-pro.
Right.
I think the potential's there. But Calvin was drawing comparisons to
Tutu Atwell.
Yeah, Tutu Atwell and Tavon Austin. And then immediately they switched and they were like, oh, he's more like Rondell Moore, the speedster type, smaller receivers. Well, there's one speedster in the NFL that everybody's terrified of. That's Tyreek Hill. And I'm not going to put this expectation on Calvin Austin. But if Calvin can turn his career into anything that Tyreek Hill has done with his career, he's going to be pretty successful. I do think so.
Yeah, most doubt. Most definitely. Once again, we're 4-Star Sports Media broadcasting live from Mobile, Alabama at the 2022 Senior Bowl. Had a great day yesterday and great night last night as well. We'll get into that here shortly. We've got Tony Siracusa coming on with us at 9:15 this morning. Tony is the managing editor of Last Word on Sports. Also has been covering UCLA for a long time. Also a fellow member of the Football Writers Association of America. But we'll have Tony on here about in roughly an hour. Get him on for 15, 20 minutes or so. We're probably going to cut this short, a little bit short today. After Tony is over, we'll jump off and run over to the stadium again and do practice like we did yesterday.
I just have to say, the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I don't know what that
is pretty stupid, and they just released their uniforms, and they look dumb as hell. They're all black, and the helmet doesn't have anything on the sides, and it's just got a W right here on the front of the helmet. Sorry, it just popped up on my Twitter feed. It's so ugly.
What's the guy from Mario? So they have a Wario. So they have a Wario helmet.
Yeah, they have Wario.
That's very interesting. It's very weird at the same time. Yeah, yesterday was a great day of practice. Had a great time. Brandon, let's talk a little bit about what we got to do last night. Went over to the Sanger Theater last night. They had the 2022 Senior Bowl Summit, which has been around since 2018. But last night's keynote speakers, I think, were some of the greatest I've ever heard, obviously. James Franklin, Steve Sarkisian, Kirk Herbstreit, Brian Harsin,
and the GOAT,
Nick Saban. Let's talk a little bit about what last night, what it meant to us on a personal level, but also what it meant to us on a media level and being able to expand our knowledge a little bit.
Yeah, man, last night was it showed you that college football coaches aren't just college football coaches. It shows you that they're family people and they know what they're talking about when it comes to just regular life. Last night was a pretty funny event too, just because they weren't taking shots at each other, but they were saying just some funny things, little zingers, everything like that. James Franklin damn near put me to sleep just because he talked for so long. And then the A-list walks out with Saban and Harsin. And there's a ton of Alabama, ton of Auburn fans in there screaming for their coach. But it was really cool to see a Nick Saban sit there and talk about being a father and talk about how he supports his players rather than being a coach to them. He also dropped the line that he has never paid a player once in his life. And immediately I said, bullshit, very loud in the theater. And there were Alabama fans who were agreeing with me. They were like, that's total bullshit. But it was fun. It was fun to be there, man. It was a great environment. Great, the Sanger Theater, beautiful. Now, I don't think there's a bad seat in the place. And I had a great time, man. Other than when James Franklin almost put me to sleep. It was very intriguing. It was fun to watch. There was a ton of people there. And they just talked about life in general. And they talked about parenting, and they kind of talked about what it's like to be a parent in this age and what you should do for your kids in this age. As college football coaches, they're in charge of over 100 kids. Not only their own that they have at their house. Brian Harsin, Auburn's head coach, had a very cool quote last night. And I was sitting there and I was like, damn, man, this is so true. And I used to work with the youth group at my church and everything like that. And his number one point from all of last night is listen to what others have to say until you speak. Because you never know if it's a good idea or a bad idea of what they're trying to say. And I really appreciated that, because that's something everybody should live by. If somebody's got something to say, listen to them, and then you can either have a disagreement or an agreement, anything like that. That was really cool. Nick Saban talked about how he was more of a discipline type dad, and Miss Terry was like, hey, let them do whatever they want. He said, Miss Terry and I have completely different ideals than most people. And I was like, I could see that coming.
Oh, yeah.
But, man, what a fun event to help kick off this week. Monday we didn't really do anything. And then yesterday it kicked off with practice, the summit. Today we have practice. Tonight there's an FCA event, but I think that's more focused towards high school and junior high kids. But yeah, guys, we have had a great time down here, and that summit is probably one of my favorite things that I've been to thus far.
Yeah, like you said, it was really refreshing, I think is the word I'm looking for, to hear those guys who we see on the sidelines. We've all seen Saban dropping F-bombs on everybody, and they're up by 60 points, and he's still coaching them. But two coaches last night that I really gained a new outlook on is Brian Harsin from Auburn and Steve Sarkisian from Texas. I've always liked Sark. Don't get me wrong. I've always liked Sark. But hearing him talk last night and hearing him talk about his journey here to Texas and just talk about the kids, his kids. Social media was a big topic last night. I thought it was really cool to hear these guys talk about what they talk to their teams about in a private setting, in a public setting to us. But Brian Harsin last night, man, he talked about something called the sewer. Yeah. And he calls that social media. Now, yes, I know we're all over social media. That's how we get a lot of our show content out. But go ahead.
Sorry. He was basically, when he meant the sewer, he was saying people having a negative outlook on anything you do or say. and he goes, "There are positives to social media, so don't like take that with a grain of salt. Like the people that are praising you on social media, there's 5 of them who hate you on social media. That's just how it works these days, and it's the unfortunate reality. But I really think that Harson's conversation stuck with me the most out of anybody because Saban was talking. Saban draws the attention in the room. But when Kirk Herbstreit would ask Brian Harsin a question, Brian Harsin would give a wholehearted answer. And my other thing with Harsin, and we haven't really talked about it on this podcast, but Auburn's going through just something crazy right now. I mean, we don't know what's going on in that Auburn football program. But for Brian Harsin to sit on that stage, take pictures with people after the show, sign autographs, kiss babies, shake hands, blah, 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 and do that in the middle of everything that's going on in his program shows me, 1, how much of a man he is, and 2, the way that he intends to run his football program at Auburn.
And, last night, once again, thank you to everybody watching right now on all of our social media networks. We're on Twitter. We're everywhere. If you can find us on social media, we're live right now. It's just quicker to say it that way. Thank you to all of our fans. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Sidecar Cafe, Rick Haygood and Joseph Michael down there do an incredible job taking care of all the sports fans around Memphis. They've got one location right now currently on Witten Road. We talk about the TV wall all the time, Brandon. The nicest TV wall, and I believe it's the biggest in the city of Memphis.
All right, I'm not going to talk about the TV wall today.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to talk about their menu. There ain't a damn thing on that menu that isn't good.
No, it's not.
I hate like vegetables and stuff like that because I'm fat. Rick Haygood and whoever cooks in that kitchen, Joseph Michael, whoever cooks those vegetables, I'm going to eat them because I haven't had a bad thing at Sidecar Cafe. Not a single thing. The best grilled chicken tenders I've ever had in my life. The best mashed potatoes in the city. If y'all want to go over there, go get you a lunch special over there today. Tell them 4-Star sent you. They're good people over there, man, and I can't wait until the new 4-Star platter is making its debut during the big game for their party over there. It's going to be a lot of fun over there at Sidecar Cafe. Y'all should absolutely go out for big game Sunday not this Sunday, but the following Sunday. Go over there to Sidecar Cafe, support local business, support Rick, support Mike, get you your football fix in over there and get you some good grub.
Yeah, man. Rick was telling us yesterday about that platter. It has got half pound of pulled pork, half pound of brisket.
2 pounds of meat.
Oh, yeah. It's a total of 2 pounds of meat on this tray, but it's now going to be called the 4-Star Sports Platter. So go by Sidecar Cafe, tell them 4-Star sent you, and tell them you want that 4-Star platter. Also, Stephen Plunk at Germantown Village Wine and Liquor, right there at 7730 Poplar Avenue, does an incredible job with us. Thank you very much to Stephen and all they do for us. And last but certainly not least, BA Mask. Alan McFerrin and company do an incredible job forging the future of sports face mask through football, lacrosse, and now they're in the NIL game with their new NIL BA athlete.
They're also in a real video game that I play quite a bit called Madden, which is a really cool. Oh, speaking of Madden, sorry to side note on our sponsor, but we walked into the press box last night or yesterday morning. Sorry, not last night. Been a long day. We walked into the press box and sit down, and I hear this voice behind me, and it's so recognizable because I've played the game of Madden for so long. Charles Davis with NFL Network is sitting right behind me, and I was like, am I playing Madden right now? Because, I mean, also, he was the first person I introduced myself to in the press box. The NFL Network guys that were set up right behind us getting ready to do their prep notes and everything for when they went live at practice was just awesome. Being able to talk with those guys was absolutely a dream come true. They do what we love, They cover the NFL for a living. It's a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed being there. Can't wait to do it again today. But for those guys to be on NFL Network, Charles Davis does Madden. Andrew Siciliano was there. Those guys could have been nicer to us and supporting in what we were doing. Charles Davis literally goes, Wes and I said, this is our first big event that we've done. We're credentialed for University of Memphis football. Went to Arkansas State, covered that game as well. And Charles Davis looks at me and he goes, man, you only need one. He said, you only need one for your big break, and this is our one. The sky's the limit for us, and we're excited to be sharing these stories with you that we have down here at the Senior Bowl, seeing what we see down here. And there's only 3 days left, 4 days left technically, of stories that we're going to be able to share and everything. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But, yeah, shout out to Charles Davis for being just a stand-up class act guy. Fun fact about him, his wife went to Ridgeway High School, also University of Memphis grad, and they were married at the Peabody Hotel, which he was like, I was like, well, you just gave me 3 Memphis things on top of that. And he was like, yeah, man, I love the city of Memphis. Great place. And I was like, that's awesome, even though he went to Tennessee.
Yeah, man, Charles Davis was really cool. It was him, Andrew, and there was the other guy on the left, and he looked familiar, but I can't think of who he is. I think he's a sideline reporter is actually who he is. But all 3 of them yesterday just started clapping for us. And that's probably, honestly, a moment from this whole week. And we're only on day 2. But I think that's a moment that's going to stick with me for a long time. I still haven't wrote that article yet. I'm gonna write it. I'm just kind of going through this week and soaking it all up. We've talked about a feeling.
It's a sense of respect.
It is. Well, it's a sense of arrival. It is really how I look at it. And that's the title of the article this week is arrival, because I feel like we have now arrived. We've worked our ass off to get here. Not only me and you, but everybody in the brand. I don't want to take anything away from anybody. This is a group effort being here. But Charles Davis and those guys yesterday, we gave them our business cards. That's a connection that I really was glad to make yesterday. That and then that anonymous football coach we talked to yesterday. And just so Memphis fans know, this anonymous football coach said, who's that number 4?
Who was that number 4 that played for y'all?
And Brandon and I
immediately got him off on the 3rd. He goes, that son of a gun is nasty.
But he made a comment yesterday that really stuck with me, Brandon, and you too, I know. He said, he is the reason I'm in Memphis recruiting players. When you look at him, Antonio Gibson, Miller.
Tony Pollard, Anthony Miller.
Yeah. He said that's the reason I'm in Memphis, is because you've got walk-ons that are coming to school.
For those of you that don't know, this guy said he has no clue, because no other school's been able to do it. No other school in all of college football has been able to do it. He said he has no clue how you turn walk-ons into star NFL potential or players. We've done it, 3 times now? This will be the 4th with Calvin. Dating back to Alan Cross, who was the first one, who ended up playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 3 seasons. Retired. Now he's on staff at Memphis. Going to Anthony Miller, who played at Christian Brothers, didn't have a single college offer, decides to PWO at Memphis. To Tony Pollard, who fought for a scholarship at Memphis. Ended up getting it kind of early while he was there, but did come in as a walk-on initially. Then to Calvin Austin III. Ran track at Memphis, wanted to play football, quit running track to focus on football, got a football scholarship, and now look at him. Dude's showing out at the Senior Bowl, making noise in front of everybody.
Yeah, he really is. Man, that was your dad said show your face.
I don't think you want that right now.
But yeah, man, yesterday was a great day all the way around from both practices. By the way, just so everyone knows, this Hancock Whitney Stadium down here is beautiful. Beautiful stadium, beautiful scenery. When you're sitting in the press box, you can overlook essentially the entire town of Mobile and campus. But it's a beautiful stadium. We are very glad to be here. Yesterday we got there early, kind of found our bearings, figured out where we could be, where we couldn't be. But today, man, we're ready to hit the ground running today and attack this practice. We know how to do it now. We know how to get to the spots we need to get. Brandon, let's take a quick break here shortly, here in just a minute, and then we'll come back and preview today, and then we'll have Tony Siracusa coming on at 9:15. We'll be right back here on the 4-Star Sports Radio Network.
Coming up tomorrow on 4-Star Sports Radio's coverage, live from the 2022 Reeces Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, Wes and Bum sit down with Russell Copeland of Memphis Sports Radio at 9:30. Be sure to follow 4-Star Sports Media all week long for news and exciting interviews.
Welcome back. Tomorrow, you just heard it. Tomorrow, we've got Russell Copeland, voice of the Road Memphis Tiger football. He's on the radio crew for the University of Memphis. Of course, everyone who is a Memphis fan and an NFL fan should know who Russell Copeland is. Memphis Tiger legend. Played for the Buffalo Bills for a few years in the league. Also, did not play for Seattle, I believe, at one time as well. But Russell Copeland, great friend of the show, will be back with us tomorrow to talk all things Senior Bowl. And we've got Tony Siracusa coming up at 9:15 this morning. Talking about today, though, when you look at how practice went yesterday, there were some guys that made some mistakes yesterday. There were some guys that maybe not had the greatest game in the world yesterday. But Brandon, when you look at today, man, today is a day that they can make that wrong right. Let's talk about some guys that may have had, I don't want to say a bad day of practice, but just may not have had their best day. Who are you looking for today to see who can improve?
By far, in my opinion, the worst day of practice yesterday was Desmond Ritter, quarterback from Cincinnati. I looked at Wes yesterday, and he was making some throws where I was like, this kid's not an NFL quarterback. But he did make some throws where I was impressed. So, given it was the first day of practice with all these guys, the only guy he was really familiar with on that team that he was running plays with was Jerome Ford. I think Ritter can have another a good day of practice today. I think he can turn it around. I mean, now it is supposed to rain all day, so that's going to play a factor on how hard they practice, what all they do, because you definitely do not want injuries while you're down here. That's number one thing you do not want. But I think Desmond Ritter has potential to have a better day of practice. Bailey Zapp apparently didn't have a great day yesterday, but it wasn't terrible. But I think he can have a better day today. You talked about Carson Strong. Carson Strong had a great day of practice yesterday, and in my opinion, I'm sure there's experts out there that were like, he held the ball too long, or he's running out of pocket too much. But, I mean, it's just practice. So wait until the game happens. But, I mean, this is a type of place where you could have just terrible days of practice, 3 terrible days of practice, then Saturday show up and just have a great game. And NFL coaches respond to that. They look at that and they're like, oh, shoot, like this kid's good when it comes to game time. So, yeah, shout out to those guys, man. I do think I think Zapp and Ritter are going to be your 2 guys that have big days today.
I think on the national side of things, I think Ritter needs a good day today. I think Ritter needs a good day for his confidence to build for this week. I'm really looking forward to seeing Kenny Pickett again, seeing if he can be consistent today like he was yesterday, continuously throughout the week. I said yesterday on Twitter, I think Kenny Pickett is most polished out of all quarterbacks here, which that's a given. But today, with the American side of things, Malik Willis is the guy that I'm going to watch pretty heavily today. I want to see how his footwork is. I want to see how quick he gets the ball out. And I want to see how he can get some chemistry going with Calvin and the other stud athletes on that team.
Yeah, a lot of experts were saying yesterday that Malik had a really good day. I think he's got a bunch of good receivers on that side of the ball to help him. Calvin's on that side with him. He's got a good offensive line. And honestly, I think that results back to the little walkthrough they did right before practice. Those guys were able to get familiar with each other to an extent. So they weren't running plays. They were just had no helmets walking through. And then practice tuned up. They got into their stretches. They went to their little stations, and then they switched into practice mode. So, yeah, I think Malik is one of those guys that's going to have probably a second. I mean, he's pretty consistent as far as what we hear. So, I think he's going to have a really good day of practice today.
Yeah, I agree, man. When you look at the two coaching staffs, we got a chance last night to hear from both head coaches. Dan Campbell's hilarious, by the way.
Dan Campbell, if you are listening to 4-Star Sports Media, please adopt me. The guy reminds me of myself just because he's just got these witty, smart comments that are really funny. I think I'm funny for those of you that are listening. But no, Dan Campbell seemed like your typical football dad. He didn't seem straight up. Yes, he's your football coach, but he seemed like the dad that just loves the game of football, who's good with all of his kids. He was just funny, man. I enjoyed listening to him talk about his career and everything like that. He talked about how he played tight end at Texas A&M, and they were playing somebody.
Cowboy.
Oh yeah, he was on the Cowboys, and Jimmy Johnson was the coach. And he had a ball that was thrown right to him, went right out through his hands, and he comes running back to the sidelines. And Drew Bledsoe was the quarterback at the time. And Jimmy Johnson screaming at Drew Bledsoe that you got to throw it to him right here, for him to catch it right here. It was so funny. I mean, Dan Campbell did a great job of that reenactment, too. Got up out of his chair, right here. I have a newfound respect for Dan Campbell, and I'm going to cheer for the Detroit Lions next year for sure.
It was great, man. But I think Robert Salo is good, too. He's got a different demeanor to him. He seems very business-oriented. And you're the head coach of the Jets. I mean, dear God, you got to be. They're issues. Let's be honest.
The Jets stink.
Yeah.
That's what they are. They stink. But if anybody can get it right, it's him. He seems like a very disciplined football mind. And to be a head coach in a city like New York City, you have to be like him. Your demeanor changes. You can't be the all buddy coach with your players, Only certain guys will work in New York City. Technically New Jersey, but whatever. Only certain guys will work in that area of the country, and he seems like one. When he said that he had 7 children last night, the whole crowd just gasped for air. They were like, whoa.
He said from 10 months.
He said all the way from 10 months to 17 years old. He's got 5 boys and 2 girls. And I was like, how do you maintain being a head football coach in the National Football League and have 7 children on the side? So shout out to that guy, man. Like, he knows how to, I guess, be a great dad and a shout out to him. And also, in respect to the Jets, I know I just said they stink. This year, they won some games that they weren't supposed to win, but they also were in a lot of games that they played in. Like, it wasn't like the typical Jets where they were getting blown out by 30 every single game. They were in a lot of these games. I think a quarterback like Zach Wilson's going to help them with their future. I think they really need a running back. I'd look at a Brian Robinson Jr. type, go into New York. Somebody like that, hell, Jerome Ford. Somebody that's going to help that backfield. But, yeah, shout out to him. And these two coaches, I know they've coached for two of the not best teams in the league. Record-wise, they weren't the best teams in the league. But these teams have showed promise. I mean, you look at what the Lions did this past year. I think a lot of theirs was injuries that plagued them. You had a guy like DeAndre Swift go down a little bit early in the year. He played most of the year, but he was in and out a lot. Then you have Jared Goff, who's your quarterback, and you really, other than Ahmad St. Brown, you don't really have a whole bunch of targets. I mean, T.J. Hawkinson got hurt early in the year. And I don't mean to go off on a tangent, just talk Jets and Lions right now. But, I mean, it's relative to what we're doing right now. Both those staffs are down here working with these teams. But, yeah, more than enough – excuse me. I have a newfound respect for what those guys do. And I'm really excited to be down here tomorrow morning. We're not going to do a show tomorrow morning. We're probably going to do one tomorrow afternoon or night. We're not completely sure yet. Tomorrow morning, we're going to the media breakfast, and both the Jets and Lions coaching staffs are available for media availability, and then a couple players are going to be there. Kenny Pickett will be there. We're going to bring y'all interviews with him and a couple other guys, maybe get a little cool question in there for them. If there's a question that y'all might want us to ask that isn't just a completely waste of time, please feel more than welcome to send it to us. We'll even give you credit on our post for having that question. But, yeah, no, I'm excited to be down here with those two organizations, man. And then as we get done talking to this former AAC head coach at practice yesterday, who comes bebopping down with his aviators on? Well, one of the greatest coaches in relative history, recent history, Mike Tomlin, comes bebopping down the little sidewalk, and Wes turns and goes, "Bum, that's Mike Tomlin." I said, "Where?" And I look dead at him. Sure enough, Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh Steelers head coach, is walking down to the field to watch the Senior Bowl. That's what this event is, y'all. You have guys like Mike Tomlin show up to be like, okay, let's see what you got, young man. So very, very interesting there. Just glad I like the NFL aspect of this whole week. It makes it feel more home-like. You saw scouts and coaches and everything from other teams. Every single team was represented yesterday. Yeah, but they were all hugging each other, all buddy-buddy. And I think because I'm not going to say you're on the other side of the pandemic, but I think because you're out of what you were once in the pandemic, it was the first time these guys were able to come together without boundaries, keeping them from being together and seeing each other. I mean, we had a Ram scout in the press box yesterday. I walked right by him. I said, "Man, y'all go to the Super Bowl. They're still making you work." He goes, "Every day, brother." I mean, it was really funny. But, yeah, man, I'm having such a great time down here. Can't wait to get day 2 started. Day 2 of practice, day 3 for us. But cannot wait for this to just get rolling, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Very blessed to be in this situation with you, Wes. I made a post last week, and I don't want Wes to cry on camera, but I made a post last week, and I said if there's anybody worth cheering for at 4-star, it's Wes Pruitt. If you knew his story and what he's been through his whole life, all the way from early years of his life, he's a guy worth cheering for. And I'm just glad to be down here with you, man. And hopefully you're glad to be down here with me, other than when I snore as loud as I can at night. I'm sure I've woke you up a couple times. But, yeah, man, it's exciting times to be down here. I'm sorry I just completely forgot what we were talking about, the question you asked. I'm just excited, dude.
Yeah.
Appreciate those kind words, as you know, man. You're right. This has been a journey, and it's not just a journey that started a year ago. It's been a journey for a long time. But man, when you look at it, for example, we're in the press box, and Charles Davis goes, "Hey, Dan Marino's next door in the Miami Dolphins suite." I mean, it's everybody is here. Like up in the press box, there's suites. You got the Falcons. We're next to us on one side.
Was almost not here. For those of you that don't see on the computer, Wes almost took an entire lamp off the desk along with his microphone.
Yeah, I almost did. Yeah, man, they're all here. Everybody's here. But it's what I love is it's a big family of coaching. It's a big college and pro. I mean, when's the last time you've seen Dabo Swinney dap it up with
Mike Tomlin?
Mike Tomlin, and you know what I mean, or Josh Heupel, guys that in the heat of coaching, those guys gotta hate each other. And
especially a guy like Dabo and Heupel recruiting against each other like continuously.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I crap on Tennessee all the time, but seeing that relationship between Heupel and Dabo, dab each other up, give each other a hug, hey, how you doing? Move along. Like, that was pretty cool to see, man.
Yeah, it really, really was. It really, really was. I mean, when you look at today, like we talked about earlier, you're going to have some guys step up today. You're going to have some guys today that had great practices yesterday and just didn't have a good one today. It's going to happen. That's just the game of football. We are roughly 20 minutes away from Tony Siracusa coming on with us this morning. Really looking forward to get him on, Brandon. He's been a guy that has given me personally a good bit of advice on the sports media world, how to kind of maneuver through it, but he's also helped us out as a brand too. He's liking a lot of our posts, all the articles the majority of the articles we write, both Arkansas and Memphis. He's liking them, he's commenting on them, things of that nature. Tony's been a really good friend to us, man, and I'm really excited to get him on and pop in, kind of peeking a little bit.
The cool thing about Tony is he's from California, and you don't have guys from other states like California come to guys out of Memphis or across at Arkansas to support them. That just doesn't happen regularly. So shout out to Tony for being around with us, sticking it out with us, being a great supporter. We're supporters of what he does. He was at the NFLPA Bowl last week, so I'm sure Wes is going to talk to him a little bit about that. And, man, what a great way to kick off today.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, man. Going to be a lot of fun. We're planning on having Russell Copeland tomorrow morning at 9:30. I'm hoping we can get out of there and then get him on StreamYard, whether from the car or wherever. But hopefully pretty sure we'll get him on tomorrow morning, 9:30, Russell Copeland. And then Friday morning, not to give it away, but Friday morning we've got CrossFit head football coach Sean Jackson coming on with us at 9:30. And at 9 o'clock, we've got a guy from WKNS, I believe is the radio station down here in Mobile, Alabama.
Mobile?
Yep, down in Mobile. We're going to get him on to talk about the impact of this game on the city of Mobile every year, and really kind of get a local feel for what the locals around here feel for this game.
Side note on that, we went to eat at a place last night called the Beer Garden. Great burgers. But the owner or manager, whoever was there, couldn't have been nicer to Wes and I. Very, very welcoming, saying, hey, welcome to Mobile. Thank you for coming to my establishment. And I kind of asked him, I was like, how big of a deal is the Senior Bowl in Mobile? He goes, a lot of people don't go to the game, but everybody goes to the events. We saw that last night with the Summit. Then tonight there's the FCA thing. Tomorrow night there is a lip sync battle between some of the players and coaches, and I think they're going to have some special guests there too, which will be really cool. Then Friday night, it's the kickoff for not only the Senior Bowl, but for Mardi Gras in Mobile. It's the Senior Bowl Mardi Gras parade, which will be really, really cool. I've never experienced a Mardi Gras parade in my life. I'm excited to go do that. They say it's a very fun family atmosphere. If you don't have anything to do this weekend and you're scared of the winter weather that's going to be coming through the Memphis area, come down to Mobile if you can. Come watch Calvin Austin. Also, Dylan Parham, who we didn't talk about, who apparently had the best block of the day yesterday.
He's all over NFL.
He's all over the NFL Network. He's all over all kinds of NFL draft stuff. They have him playing center, which Coach Silverfield put a tweet out this morning. Dylan Parham has only played on the offensive line for 4 years. Didn't play O-line in high school, I assume. But, yeah, man, come down here, support your form. It doesn't matter if you're a Memphis fan or not. I mean, if you cheer for a team, that school's definitely represented down here. Everybody's here. It's a really cool atmosphere. Bring your family if you want to get away from the winter weather up there, up north in the Mid-South. Come on down to Mobile. Hotel prices aren't that bad. Ticket prices for the game are cheap.
I think it's like $15.
Concessions at the game were very cheap yesterday. There's a lot to do in Mobile. Go visit the USS Alabama, the battleship that's down here. The campus is absolutely beautiful. If you just like walking across college campuses, or maybe you have a child who is going to graduate high school within the next few years, and they're thinking about where they might want to go, come take a campus tour down here at USA. Mobile's a great place. Lots of traffic, and probably the longest traffic lights I've ever sat at in my life. But, yeah, Mobile's a great place. Come on down to the Senior Bowl. Tell us if you're coming down. We'll make time out of our day to come see you at the game or at practice. And, I mean, if you don't have anything to do this weekend, it's a 6-hour drive from Memphis. It's not too bad. You're not far from the beach. The weather down here has been pretty good, other than the rain today. But, yeah, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Good, man. You're good. Also, just another thing about Mobile, the downtown Mobile area is absolutely booming. Of course, the Renaissance Center, which is ties into the convention center, the Renaissance Hotel, is Senior Bowl Ground Zero. There's Radio Row over there. That's where all the players are. It's where all the meetings happen. That is a really cool event they've got set up down there. It's very obvious where you're supposed to go and not go because there's plus signs everywhere. But I'm really glad to see that the city of Mobile has just embraced this weekend, or this week for that matter. And like you said, everybody's here. All 32 teams in the NFL are represented. All over 130 schools are represented, plus Division II. Man, this is it is an event that encompasses all of college football, not just at the Division I level. And I love it. I really do. I love it. It's been a great time thus far, and we're just at practice day number 2. We got one more day of practice tomorrow, then the game will be Saturday. It's been a lot of fun so far. I think the practices will probably start getting a little more intense starting today. But man, Brandon, it's nice to hear those pads popping again. It really is. And I know yesterday being down on the field taking pictures, these guys are jawing it up a little bit. They're talking some smack out there.
Oh, Calvin burnt that kid from Tennessee yesterday. Looked back at him. I thought it was just absolutely beautiful. They're talking trash, man. They're taking names. It was a lot of fun to see those pads. I talked about it yesterday. Those pads clack. You hear the hoop swish, and you hear the crack of the bat. Those are 3 of my favorite noises on this earth. Those pads were cracking yesterday, and you could hear them in the press box. A lot of fun. Excited to be going down there again today. Hopefully the rain doesn't deteriorate what we're trying to do today, but and I think they'll still practice. They have an indoor practice facility. If they have to move it over there, I'm sure they will. But yeah, man, couldn't have been a better day yesterday. We're excited for a great day today, and let's keep this thing going, Wes Pruitt.
Now we are live, 4-Star Sports Media, Twitter, at 4-Star Sports Media, Facebook, 4-Star Sports Media, YouTube. The podcast is live. Inside the Hall Pin is live. Hall is live, and so is 4-Star Sports Show. All these pages are live right now. You're watching Brandon and I live from Mobile, Alabama. Senior Bowl practice day number 2 is today. It'll be a lot of fun today to watch and see how these guys all work together during the second day of practice. But on the American side of things, we know it's the second practice. Guy that you may not have paid a lot of watch today just to see how he does.
Well, that's a very interesting question of you to ask, Wes. And my answer is going to be Malik Willis. I mean, it's an obvious choice. He's a quarterback. But seems as if he was throwing good balls yesterday to the guys. But I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to him because, I'm looking at Calvin and Dylan most of the day. Excited to see Malik and see what he can do today. Very excited to see what the running back room does over there on the American side. And when you look at it, I mean, when I was down there field level, I felt like that American team was a little bit bigger than the national team when it came to size. Because that O-line is just massive. I mean, you have a 6'3 center running the 6'3 guy at center right now in Dylan Parham. Everybody else around Dylan makes Dylan look small. So it was pretty fun to watch that.
Who the offensive line guy was from Virginia Tech, but when he came on the field, all eyes were on him because that young man is huge. Absolutely huge. Going to take a quick break right quick. Tony Siracusa will be joining us here momentarily. 4-Star Sports Media is live from Mobile, Alabama, here on February 2nd, 2022, live from Mobile, Alabama, on the 4-Star Sports Radio Network. We'll be right back.
Coming up tomorrow on 4-Star Sports Radio's coverage, live from the 2022 Reeces Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, Wes and Bum sit down with Russell Copeland of Memphis Sports Radio at 9:30. Be sure to follow 4-Star Sports Media all week long for news and exciting interviews.
Welcome back. I apologize if I'm jumping in and out. The internet's kind of acting up a little bit here. But we are getting this thing going, getting this thing taken care of down here. Tony Siracusa will be joining us here momentarily. Just got a message from him, said he's getting ready to come on.
Side note, it's 7:04 a.m. in California, and this guy's going to hop on with us. Do you know how much that takes? Like, how much I respect that?
You literally took it out of my mouth. I looked down at the clock and was like, man, it's 7 o'clock out there. It's way early. I wasn't even up at 7. But, man, got to give.
Yeah. 7 this morning. I woke up at 7:40, sitting up in the middle of my bed for Wes to say, Bum, get up. I was like, why? He goes, we got a show in 20 minutes. I was like, oh, Lord, okay, let me get ready.
I'm ready to bring I'll say young man. I'll call him a young man, but
a young lad.
He's young lad. He's laughing down here.
Young lad, California.
But I'm getting ready to bring on Mr. Siracusa from Last Word on Sports Football. How are you doing, young man?
Young man, that's hilarious. I got years on both of you guys, a lot of them.
We appreciate you getting up pretty early this morning out there on the West with us this morning. Man, Tony, I've been following myself and this brand since we kind of friended each other on Facebook. Man, tell me a little bit about what you do with Last Word on Sports.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm the managing editor for Last Word on College Football. And so we've got about 25 writers across the country covering different teams for us. And, today we've got stuff that we're putting out right now about players signing on National Signing Day. It's the National Signing Day that everyone has forgotten about at this point because of what happens with December and the early signing period. But my department is part of the larger Last Word on Sports network, which is about 400 writers around the world covering things like tennis. And we had people in New Zealand covering rugby and people in India covering cricket. Goodness knows, they've tried explaining it to me and my eyes just kind of glaze over, after a while. We've got obviously all the domestic stuff with the NFL and Major League Baseball and the NBA. And then we've got our college football department, which, like I said, is about 25 writers across the country covering different teams, working around the clock, getting stuff. We're tracking down, Jim Harbaugh today, who, has the audacity to go to Minnesota to interview with the Vikings on National Signing Day. I mean, wow, that takes some, that's pretty brazen. We'll call it that.
I'll use a ballsy, Tony. That's pretty ballsy.
it's your show. I'll let you say that.
Tony, man, first, from a personal standpoint, I just tell you, thank you very much for coming on with us. It's 7:00 in the morning. Where you are. It shows dedication, man. But
I've been up for hours.
From a personal standpoint, from a personal standpoint, man, I just want to tell you, you have helped me so much. I'm now a proud member of the Football Writers Association. For a guy like me, man, that's just doing this on his own, I have a degree, I have no background. I'm just putting passion and love of sports into written articles. But from everyone at the brand included, man, we thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Just in liking posts, just in being active on our pages, it means. But Tony, I know you were at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl last week.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that game, how it compares to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, look, the Senior Bowl obviously is the long-standing traditional collegiate all-star game. It's been around for a lot longer. The NFLPA Collegiate Bowl at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena just had, this was the 10th annual one. And so it's a lot smaller, and it's not the A-list players. It's B and C-list players who, frankly, are trying to get a look. Look, they're not going to be the first-round draft picks. There was none of them there, and they know it. They're trying to be the 5th and 6th round draft picks, or even get an undrafted free agent contract to try and make it in the league. You look back at the game a couple years ago, and there's a guy, look, if anyone in the Midwest, anyone who's a Packers fan knows Chris Barnes, who, now is starting linebacker for the Packers. He was at the Collegiate Bowl a couple of years ago, and I talked with his agent after draft day 2 years ago, and he said, man, if it hadn't been for the Collegiate Bowl, I'm not sure we would have gotten a look anywhere. He had a great week that week, had a great game. It's a lot like what you're experiencing in Mobile. It's a lot like what's going on in Las Vegas with the East-West Shrine game. Really, the week of practice is the thing. The game is fine and the game is fun, but you got tons of players and you're rotating everybody in, and you're going to see 3 quarterbacks on each team and all of that. It's the week of drills in front of the NFL scouts and the coaches and so on that really makes the difference. And that was the case in Pasadena. We saw, the game was fine. It wound up ending 25-24 when the Illinois kicker missed a 46-yarder at the end of the game to seal it for, and you can't even keep track which one's the American team, which one's the national team. We were having to go through it in the press box repeatedly. But what you see some players who are probably under the radar a little bit not in terms of me and you, but in terms of people who just watch their college football on Saturdays. They're not tracking it, every day of the year like we do. And so there were really some significant standouts during the week. And there were some guys who had some opportunities who really kind of missed. And you hate to see that because, this is their chance, especially with the game coming the week before the Senior Bowl. And then, of course, we've got the East-West Shrine game, which strangely weirdly moved its dates to kind of have the practices going head to head with the Senior Bowl. And I was talking to a lot of people in Pasadena, talking to scouts, talking to people from the National Football League Players Association. Everybody was kind of shrugging their shoulders saying, I don't get it. I don't get why they did that. I mean, yeah, the game is Thursday night, so the game's not going head to head, but the week of practice certainly is. And so you've got players who, having to make a decision, if they get multiple invites, which one are they going to? And so it was a really curious thing to do. Someone commented, well, maybe they're making the pitch that, hey, Las Vegas or Mobile, Alabama. I'm like, yeah, but it's not like the players are getting to go out and see the city and have fun. I mean, they're sitting in their hotel rooms going over playbooks, and they've got, just like the Senior Bowl, they've got, panels throughout the night talking to the players, finance guys, business guys, former players talking about how to make that transition to the league. It's not like they're going to be able to go out on the strip and, hit a club and do all that kind of stuff. It's not what they're there for. But so this was this was the first one out of the box in terms of the big three. And we saw some really good play during the week.
Mr. Siracusa, I'm Brandon Bumgarner. I'm actually Vice President of 4-Star Sports Media here with Wes. I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Who stood out at the NFLPA Bowl as far as players? Who helped their draft stock? Who hurt their draft stock the most? That's just a question that kind of intrigued me, and I wanted to ask.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And since you called me Mr. Siracusa, I'll look for my dad and see if he can handle it. But no, seriously, I appreciate the question, Brandon. Look, Chase Garbers, the quarterback from Cal, had a good game. He was 10 of 13, 119 yards, had a touchdown. One of the guys that I really like seeing out there, though, was Akil Glass, the quarterback from Alabama A&M. He really looked sharp during the week. He looked really mobile. I think during the game, he had about 150 yards throwing and a touchdown. The MVP of the game was Cole Kelly, the quarterback from Southeastern Louisiana. He didn't have mind-blowing stats. I think part of it is they like the MVP to be on the winning team. And so, but he was good. He 11 of 16, a little bit over 100 yards, showed great poise in the pocket and during the game and in practice. Really good footwork, stands tall, stands in the pocket, doesn't get happy feet back there, looking to leave too early. He's not a tremendously mobile quarterback to begin with. So he steps up in the pocket when the rush comes in. And again, like your guys' game, there are modified rules for the game. So you take it with a little bit of grain of salt. There's no blitzing and you can only do certain formations and things like that. But that having been said, everybody's playing with the same rules. So he looked good. He looked really good. One of the guys that I came away with, and actually if his team had won, I think he would have been the MVP, was Dejon Dixon, a wide receiver from Nicholls State. Kid's really good. And he deserves a real look. I mean, I know that the upcoming draft is loaded with wide receivers and a lot of talent it's really deep in the wide receiver position. The kid's 6'4", 200 pounds, so he's got good size. He had 6 catches for 131 yards and a touchdown. What impressed me about him, this is going to sound it's probably getting kind of granular at this hour of the morning, but he's got NFL feet. And by that, I mean, he's got field awareness also. He made a terrific catch along the sidelines, making sure to get both feet in bounds. That's not an obvious for a guy who, guys coming out of college right now, where you only have to get 1 foot in bounds for the play to be good. They have to work on those things. They have to develop that kind of mindset. He's already got it. It's already there. And so I think he had a particularly impressive game as well.
Tony, one of the interesting stories from last week was a young man by the name of Gregory Jr., defensive back out of Ouachita Baptist University. Actually went to high school in Crossett, Arkansas, where I live currently. And then I got a chance to watch him this year when we covered the Battle of the Ravine game between Ouachita Baptist and Henderson State I'm sure you being a football connoisseur like you are, you've heard of that rivalry before. Talk a little bit about Gregory Jr. It was an interesting week at the NFLPA. Was
Yeah, look, I mean, he had a good week in practice. Really wasn't much of a factor in the game, but he had look. You watch these guys in the drills, and they limit the contact a little bit. Also, you're not going after the quarterback, but they even kind of limit the contact on the receiver. So defensive backs are kind of you're there to show coverage. You're not there to show what a big hitter you are and things like that. But, your game film will show that. They want to make sure you know how to cover. They want to make sure you know how to do different types of coverage against different types of receivers. And so the defensive backs are hamstrung a little bit. So any defensive back like him who stands out in some of the drills, he's having a good week.
and he was beat a couple of times by Braylon Sanders, but let's be honest, Braylon Sanders is quite talented wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Let's talk about the Senior Bowl, Tony. We're at practice day 2 now. Talk a little about these two pro teams down here, the Jets and the Lions. We got a chance last night to go to the summit, hear from both head coaches as well as legends from around the college game. But talk a little bit about those two pro teams and who you think they may be looking at this week during the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I know people I've had people from the Senior Bowl, not the Senior Bowl specific, but people who are out there sending me clips of some of the practices and, looking at players and sending me, 15, 20, 30-second video clips of particular players. And look, there's a tremendous amount of talent there, obviously, as you would expect. There are a handful of guys who I'm particularly curious about. I need to see good play out of Malik Willis from Liberty. He's physically very gifted, and he's thick. He's not even though he's not particularly tall, he's muscular, he's strong, he throws on the run well. What I didn't see watching Liberty's games this year was his staying in the pocket to go through progressions and look for that second, third receiver. You need to see that out of him. He's got great physical gifts, but there's a heavy mixture of the really good and the need to work on that. So I'd like to see him have a good week. I'm curious about him. I want to see Sam Howell. And I know that Sam Howell was at the, high on everyone's list. He's a big name product because he comes out of North Carolina. His offensive coordinator, Phil Longo, and I talk probably about every couple of weeks. We just ping each other on, DMs and so on and talk about a particular game or whatever's going on. And Sam Howell lost a lot of weapons from 2 years ago to this year, right? I mean, he had Newsome. He had all kinds of guys that, were terrific weapons. And his game went down considerably. Does he need to have those weapons around him in order to succeed? Or is he a good enough quarterback on his own to make the other players around him that much better? There's another quarterback that I saw some footage of, which I was happy to get. He's a real dark horse in my book. Carson Strong, the quarterback from Nevada. Big physical guy. I mean, 6'4", 215, 220, somewhere around there. 4,000 yards passing last year. And before anyone says, yeah, but he played at Nevada and blah, blah, and look at the competition. I think Josh Allen has already taught us we should not be overlooking guys who play, in the group of 5, conferences. He's big, he's strong, he's got good depth. He knows how to pace the ball. And by that, I mean, he's not ripping the same ball to a running back out of the backfield that he is when he's throwing 40 yards downfield. He's got some touch. So I really want to see him and how he does against this really high level elite, the Kenny Pickett's and the Sam Howells and guys like that. See how he compares to them, because I'm looking at him being probably a 6th or 7th round draft pick, at the latest. I think one of the things we have to look at this year with regards to that is there is no quarterback going number 1 in the draft. This isn't Baker Mayfield, and this isn't, those guys where you're going to go number 1. I
don't know if Baker Mayfield would go number 1 anymore.
I think that's probably true. I think the glut of talent right now is on the lines, but the offensive and defensive line, probably even the front 7 on defense. So, the quarterbacks are, mid first round and then later, and I think he deserves a spot. I saw a guy yesterday that, I covered UCLA football for the last 5 years, as well as the Pac-12 and so on. I got a clip last night of Otito Ogbonnia, the defensive lineman from UCLA, in some drills, just blowing up the guy on the other side of the line from him, multiple guys on the other side of the line. So it'll be interesting to watch him. He was UCLA's best defensive lineman. He was hampered by not having much around him, and so teams were double teaming him. You get an opportunity like this where really the setup is you're just going one-on-one against the guy on the other side of the line from you, and he should do well. I want to see Greg Dulcich, the tight end from UCLA, very underutilized at UCLA, really mostly used as a big receiver, not much in the traditional tight end role or the hybrid role that we see a lot in the NFL. So I want to see what he does. UCLA has a propensity to not promote their players well, not be on social media getting stuff out for Dulcich, and then they complain when they're not on the watch list or the short list for any of the awards. I vote for the Bolitnikoff Award, and we heard all about how did Dulcich not make the watch list. Well, we see his stats, but what are you doing anyway? Before I get on my soapbox too much, UCLA does a really poor job of promoting their players. So this is a chance for someone like Dulcich to really show off in front of people who probably haven't seen him before.
Tony, you just talked about UCLA. Let's talk a little bit about Chip Kelly out there real quick before we get you out of here. I know you love Chip Kelly. It was a topsy-turvy offseason down there, so let's just start with the beginning. What the hell is going on at UCLA?
Well, let's be clear. I don't mind Chip Kelly as much as he minds me. He has taken me to task on my questions. Look, UCLA, it's one of those things, just to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. When you're covering UCLA, and if you're going to practices, you get Chip Kelly twice a week for 10 minutes at a time. That's it, 20 minutes. And then you can have him post game. Chip has and just to give you some insights into him, Chip thinks all the media wants to ask big picture questions so we can write this narrative that we've predetermined. And he says that. He tells us that. You guys are big picture guys. And this is a quote. We're just here trying to have a great Wednesday, or we're just here trying to have a great Tuesday. Every single time you guys have your narrative, we operate in a submarine and we're just trying to have a great Tuesday. And then you just sigh. Really? I mean, one of the reporters for the LA Times who covers him actually got a T-shirt made that he wears to practice that says "Big Picture Guy." That's how much we have fun with the concept. Look, in terms of the serious part of the question, Chip Kelly in December, when the season ended, was entering year 5 of a 5-year contract, and that 5th year had no financial guarantees. His buyout ended on January 15th. So he was going into really just no man's land. And there was an offer from UCLA, our best sources, and of course, nobody always, no one goes on the record with this stuff, but that once UCLA beat USC in the 3rd week in November, UCLA decided to extend his contract. Now, the terms and conditions and all of that were being hashed out. But there was a long delay in him taking it. And I think he was trying to see what else was out there. And then the Oregon job opened up. And we all know Chip Kelly's history at Oregon. It's the only successful history he's really had over a sustained period of time. because right now, after this last year, he's 18-25 in 4 years at UCLA. So how much he's worth in an extension was, debatable. But there was this long period, and people started assuming he might be going to Oregon. There was even a report that he had accepted the job at Oregon. Now, we confirmed that he was actually never offered the job. He did talk to them. He met with them via phone call or Zoom or whatever, never actually went up there. But he was talked to about the job. But the only coach that Oregon offered was Dan Lanning, and that was it. And he took it, and that was the end of that. It then kept drawing out longer and longer, and we were like, wow, his buyout expires in 3 days, 4 days. It's looming, and it's a reciprocal buyout. So he would have been free to leave without owing UCLA anything. They would have been free to kick him to the curb without owing anything. It was getting weird. UCLA did a poor job of not putting a deadline on the contract offer and saying, hey, this is good until, December 20th or whatever. They let it drag out. And then what you wound up with was two sides who really backed themselves into a corner. Kelly had no other offers. We just went through a fall and winter of 15, 16, 17 coaching changes. Nobody was calling Chip Kelly except the one call with Oregon. No one was going after Chip Kelly. He had no real options. He even waited until Black Monday with the NFL. No one was calling. And UCLA was in a position where all of the coaches with all this carousel, they were gone. Anybody UCLA would have wanted was already taken. They were taken off the table. It was like musical chairs, and everybody was, finding this, and they found their seat already. And UCLA standing there going, well, I guess we got Chip. It became inevitable, and yet literally was not done until the day before his buyout ended. So UCLA now has him for another 3 years. It's a 3-year extension. So now he's got a 4-year contract. We don't know the details yet. Chip Kelly tried telling us repeatedly that, my contract is a private situation. Well, no, it's not. You're the highest paid state employee at a public university, and we're going to file the Freedom of Information Act paperwork to get the information because that's what we do every year. We know your contract. And he kept saying, well, I don't know. My agent deals with it. I think Jimmy Sexton, his agent, was dealing with was overplaying a bad poker hand. When Jimmy Sexton went and got James Franklin more money, it's because other schools wanted Franklin. When he got Mel Tucker more money, it's because other schools wanted Mel Tucker. Nobody was calling Chip. So, they kind of wound up, if you will, stuck with each other for the foreseeable future. Chip's got to have a big year this year. He went 8-4 last year, but they didn't beat anybody with a winning record. And now he opens the season with, if you're ready for this, Bowling Green, Alabama State, and South Alabama. All at home, and you'll be lucky.
That is beginning to season. I mean, not trying to talk bad about Alabama, but they schedule every cupcake possible around the country, and I think they may have them beat this year.
Well, look, this could be one of the worst. UCLA will start 3-0, maybe 4-0, and the fans will cry that, they're not top 25. Well, look at who you just beat. You'll be lucky to get 100,000 people combined for those first 3 games at the Rose Bowl. So it's an awkward time right now. I think UCLA had some other options if they had moved earlier. They didn't. They've got a lot of financial issues in the athletic department. They are deep in debt. And, maybe the $9 million plus hiring a new coach where you were going to have to open up the checkbook considerably. Maybe it felt too daunting for the athletic director, Martin Jarmond, but they wound up sitting pat long enough that the two sides had nowhere else to go but with each other.
Tony, man, when you look at UCLA, look at Chip Kelly, of course, he got a big win against LSU early this year, and I think I know a lot of LSU fans were freaking out, but I think a lot of UCLA fans kind of had a false sense of security of, are we back to use that term that Texas is going to use forever. But when you look at UCLA and you look at Chip Kelly, I feel like Chip Kelly has the stigma about him that, in all honesty, I think he's created. I just don't find, and this is just my personal opinion, please don't tell Chip, but I don't find him to be a very successful football coach. I mean, yes, he had a great run. I'm not taking anything from him, but we saw real quickly when he got to the NFL that offense can be stopped, and that offense can be stopped quite easily.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think UCLA fans' expectations when Kelly was hired, I think they were unrealistic. They were looking for the Chip Kelly that did what he did at Oregon with the blur offense. And it's interesting. You talk to other coaches, and they give Chip Kelly a lot of credit for what he did with the evolution of college football because of that blur offense. All of a sudden, everybody was going to the spread, and everybody, using running backs that are elite in the open field and things like that. But in the time he was then gone from college football caught up. The defense is caught up. Everybody adjusted. There was no way for him to come back and do that at UCLA, one. Secondly, he didn't have the same level of talent at UCLA that he had at Oregon in order to do that. Three, there was a mass exodus from the team when he came. Either of his volition, there were players he wasn't interested in having back, and it was known. There were players who left of their own volition, didn't want to play for him. Over the course of 2 years, there were 82 players who left the program. And so when Kelly was sitting there in year one saying, I only have 65 scholarship players, this is going to take a while to rebuild. Well, yeah, because you ran some players out the door. Look, case in point, Jalen Phillips, who, is in the NFL now. And he had a couple of concussions, and UCLA wouldn't medically clear him. And there was a lot of talk about whether Kelly even really wanted him back or not. And I'm not being accusatory. I'm just saying there was that conversation out in the open, because all of a sudden, Phillips goes to a JC to keep eligible, spend some time there. Next thing he's at Miami, he's medically cleared. It's a miracle, right? Someone's laying hands on him and curing him from the, from his neurological issues. And he was fine at Miami, and he's been fine in the NFL. The truth is he wasn't Chip's kind of player. And that's just the reality of it. And there was a lot of that. And so it took that whole 4 years to rebuild. When you looked at the 2021 team, it was the fourth most experienced team in the country, because everything had been built towards that. The number of seniors, they had a bunch of sixth-year seniors, grad transfers who came over in 2020 and then took that extra COVID year to come back for a sixth year. And they were some skilled players. And then you had Zach Charbonnet transfer in from Michigan, and he had a fantastic year at running back. You had this massively experienced team. Everything was built for that, and you went 8-4. And it was fine. You blew out SC. You scored the most points against USC that any UCLA team ever has. But SC was 4-8. They were, it was a train wreck there, right? You beat LSU, and the Rose Bowl was crazy that night. Confetti everywhere, and everybody hugging everybody. And then it turns out LSU's really not that good. So, in the rear view, at the time it felt good. You look at the season in the rear view mirror, which Chip never will with us. He won't. It's too big picture. He won't do it with the media. It was an okay season. It was fine. But you had this team, this experience. You had a 3-year starter at quarterback, and you got to 8-4, and you didn't beat anybody with a winning record. It was okay. It was fine. I really think that should have been the floor of the expectations, not the ceiling. And now with the schedule you've got coming up, I think anything short of 9-3 is a failure.
Tony, I agree. Well, Tony, before we get you out of here, man, once again, thank you very much for coming on with us early this month, live from Mobile, Alabama, covering the Senior Bowl. We're a 4-star sports media. Anywhere you can find social media, we've got it. We're live right now on Twitter and everywhere else, all over the Twitter land, social media land, meta world, whatever they want to call it now. But Tony, before we get you out of here, man, tell everybody how they can follow you personally and also Last Word on Sports.
Yeah, we've got lastwordoncollegefootball.com, which is our website. We have a Facebook page, easy to find with the name Last Word on College Football. We've got a Twitter feed that is constant throughout the day. It's at Last Word on CFB. And then if they want to find me to argue, which people seem to want to do lately, they can find me on Twitter at Tony Bruin. And I'm happy. Well, I'll engage. I can't say I'm always happy to engage, but I will in fact respond and engage. So that was great. Look, it was great sitting down with you guys and talking college football. And I admire the work you're doing. You guys have really come up really quickly. I know it looks quickly to someone like me who's sitting on the outside. I know how it goes for you guys on the inside. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of labor. And it probably feels like it's taken a long, long time to get to where you are. But it's good work. And I look out for the work you guys do. I search for it on social media because you guys do good work and you've got a lot to be proud of.
Well, man, Tony, those words mean a lot to me. And you're right. It's only been a year, but I couldn't even imagine how long it feels like you've been doing this. But once again, man, Tony Siracusa landed on with us this morning. An incredible job once again. And go follow Tony. Tony is just full of information. He'll tell you like it is. He doesn't beat around the bush. And there's plenty of Facebook posts daily that I love. Tony, look, these schools are not offering $1.5 million. It's a complete NIL rule break. You call people out, but it's for things that need to be called out, and that's why I've kind of grasped toward you. Is because you're brutally honest with people, and that's what you have to be in this sports media world. But Tony, once again, man, thank you very much for coming on with us this morning. We're getting ready to pack up and get over to practice, but we will be tweeting out all day from practice as well. I'm sure you will, and I'll be sure and send you some videos and stats like that from the guys today at practice. But once again, 4-Star Sports Media, Tony Siracusa has joined us this morning. Thank you very much, Tony. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
Once again, that was Siracusa from Last Word on Sports. Brandon, that guy's incredible, man. Man, he's got humor, he's got knowledge, he's got everything that you need, and he's damn good at what he does at the end of the day. But we're getting ready to wrap this up here from our studio in the room, as I like to call it. But we're getting ready to head over to practice, so be sure and jump on 4-Star Sports Media Twitter and also at 4-Star Sports West. We'll be tweeting out pictures, stats, things of that nature all day from practice. But once again, 4-Star Sports Media, practice day number 2 starts today. We're live from Mobile, Alabama. We will be back later. Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir. Go Tigers.